Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wolves Wednesdays. It's been a long time, an awful long time since we've had a Wolves Wednesday, a proper one. It's been, I think, since probably October. So it's nice to have a little bit of a break and then come back, and hopefully we'll have a decent hour-long discussion or so on all things Wolves, transfer rumours, etc. If you want to just share it on your social media platforms, etc., so that we can get a few more people in here, that would be great. But just wanted to start off, first of all, by drawing your attention to a couple of pieces of artwork that have been given to me by children in school to do with my YouTube channel. We've got this one down here and this one up here. Fantastic. If anybody else was to send in any artwork to the channel, we can come up with ways that you can send that in, either electronically or I don't know. I don't really want to give my address away, but I suppose it will have to be electronically then. But you can scan it in, I suppose. But start off with a few transfer rumours, I suppose. Tammy Abraham seems to be on and off every day. Shiv, hello. How you doing, mate? I hope you're okay. Tammy Abraham is all over the place. I was listening to the Wolves fancast this morning, and they were saying about various players. The only one I knew of was the Porto centre midfielder that is it Herrera he's called, who plays for Mexico, centre midfielder. I don't know a lot about him. I know that as much as he's Mexican and he's plays for Porto, so possible there's links there. But we'll see. I'm not holding out too much hope about that. Let me know in the chat there if there's anybody in particular that you would like Wolves to sign. Dzeko and Diawara in, and then Messi in the summer. I like that, Shiv. I think that's plausible, isn't it? Callum Wilson. Now, apparently he's been linked with what I've read briefly on Instagram earlier on was just that Chelsea have got to decide between Callum Wilson or Gonzalo Higuain, which is absolutely insane. How is that a decision? Good morning / good evening from Auckland. Amazing. Got a worldwide audience. There's only 18 people in here, but still a worldwide audience. Hello, Derek Kelsey. Hope you're doing well down in Auckland, mate. So the question, of course, is can Wolves smash City? Tom Washington there said, I'd take a draw all day long, but a win would just make our season even better because the Etihad's a tough place to go. Well, it is a tough place to go, but of course, Crystal Palace went there and won recently. We drew there last season as a championship team. We drew to them at Molineux earlier on this season. So I think it's perfectly possible that Wolves could get something. I'd be very, very surprised if we got a win. I think that would be not impossible, but you're talking very, very highly unlikely. Dan 1243. I don't know why he's just done that, but he's predicted 2-1 to Wolves and then deleted his comment. Believe in yourself, Dan. I think we could get a win. Brian, do you think Ruddy should start? He asks. Zane, hello. I don't think Ruddy should start. I think there's been a lot of talk about him recently, about how his distribution is significantly better than Patricio. A goalkeeper's job primarily is to keep the ball out of the net, and Patricio, I think, has done a fantastic job at that consistently throughout the season. You can name a number of points this season where he's won us games, or won us points at least, single-handedly with some of the saves he made. Manchester United springs to mind, Crystal Palace springs to mind, Man City at home springs to mind. Spurs, he made a good save. I can't remember what the score was at that point, but again, consistently winning us points. John Ruddy was a fantastic keeper last season for us, and I would be, if Patricio was to pick up a knock or an injury, I would have no concerns about John Ruddy going in goal for a spell of games. But I don't think there's any reason for him to be out of the team at the moment. I think, it's got to be Patricio. I imagine that there's possibly some sort of clause in his contract, same as Moutinho, that he's expected to start a certain percentage of games, and I think that's fine, to be honest. Would you take Andy Carroll at Wolves? No. Although I get your point in that Wolves need to sign perhaps somebody different. We've got Jimenez, and we've been linked with Tammy Abraham, who I see as a sort of similar kind of a player to Jimenez, although less experienced and less quality, I think, to Jimenez. Yeah, see what you need, like a battering ram. But I think for me, the striker I would like to see the most come to Wolves would be Mitrovic at the moment. I think he's in the bottom half of the Premier League, he's the best player. And if Fulham do get relegated, I think we should go straight in there and get him. I don't think there's a better player in the Premier League at what he does. He's a horrible, horrible player, but if you had him on your team, it'd be fantastic. Similar to like Pepe, we talked about that earlier on in the season. I think that's a similar sort of player. Looking forward to the City game, but I think we'll struggle to get anything from it. Yeah, I agree with you there, Derek. I think Wolves are going to struggle to get a lot from City. They're such a high quality team. They're playing now, in fact, aren't they, against Burton? I'm not sure if there's been any score in that game. I'm sure one of you can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I think it'll be a good challenge. I think we can go. It's definitely a free hit. They talk about none of these games are free hits, and perhaps that's why we've done so well this season, is because they go into every game thinking the same way. Thank you, Tom. Beating Burton after 5 minutes, and that's the end of Burton's challenge there. I just need to tweet out the stream. We've been on for about 10 minutes or 7 minutes or so talking, and haven't actually shared it, so I'm quite surprised really that there's so many people here. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in. If you could just drop a like on the stream as well, that'd be much appreciated. And if you could just, I don't know, text a friend, share it to a friend. Let's spread the Wolves message. I've been really, really pleased as well. In school now, so there's the first day that the children were back in today, and there's a number of 10, 11-year-olds who have now watched Wolves on the BBC beating Liverpool, and I've all said, oh, actually, I might support Wolves now. And that's how things change, and that's how we're going to inspire the next generation of Wolves fans. Right, we just share this out. Any questions? Pop them in the what's it down below. I'm trying to concentrate on talking and sharing this thing, and I'm not doing either very successfully. Here we go. Wolves Wednesday live now. Great. Wolves are probably the best supported side in the Midlands, arguably better than the Villa. I think definitely at the moment. I think because we're successful at the moment. We're the most successful Midlands team at the moment, by virtue of being the only team in the Premier League. Although I do think that Villa support is very good as well. I think they're very, very widespread. They're very well, we'll see because what's this? Their third season in the Championship now. I think we'll start to see, if they don't get promoted this year, then we'll start to see attendances dwindle even more for them, and we'll see who the true fans are, because we consistently had 25,000, 26,000, 27,000 in our time in the Championship, and then down in League One still managed to get 20,000 attendances very, very regularly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Villa and Albion if they don't get promoted, if they stay down in the Championship or even lower. Let's hope in the future. I've Blues, Albion, and Villa fans who are mates. It's awful at times. Tom at Washington, it should be the best time of your life at the moment, mate. None of them have got anything to say. None of them can say anything to you that you can't just say. Look at the league table. Look at the FA Cup. Apart from Albion still in it, aren't they? But I'm glad that we didn't get them. I think quite a lot of Wolves fans who were coming out of the ground were hoping for them in the draw, but I don't know. I think we're so hit and miss at the moment, and we would be massive favourites in that game. I think we would struggle to actually win, which would be ironic. Would you prefer to face Edwards and Ricketts? Don't forget, Sam Ricketts, the manager at Shrewsbury at the moment, or a Phobie? Well, those of you who followed the channel for a very, very long time, from back 2 seasons ago now. Sorry about that noise there. Back from 2 seasons ago, when Dave Edwards was banging in the goals from that attacking midfield player and attacking midfield role, sorry. And I did at one point, I don't know if I actually put it out on record, but I certainly said it to friends and family. I said that Dave Edwards was worth £10 million. I appreciate now that was a crazy thing to say, but yeah, I like Dave Edwards, like Sam Ricketts, so I wouldn't like to beat them because I like them too much. So I don't like Benica Phobie particularly, and he may be. I think there's more of a story. There's more of a needle there with a Phobie. There's more of a derby, I think, with Stoke than with Shrewsbury. Although I went to there was a international break in about March last year, mid-March, and I went to watch Shrewsbury against Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, and it was the most trouble that I'd seen there. Of all, I went to most of the games for Wolves games last season. The most trouble that I saw was at AFC Wimbledon against Shrewsbury. So I think it'd be a good atmosphere there, although they don't tend to sell the ground out, Shrewsbury, for those big games. So they obviously playing Stoke in the last round. They didn't sell out the ground, which is a disappointing for such a small ground. But I think since they've moved from Gay Meadow to that new ground, which is out in the middle of nowhere, I think they found it difficult to settle in there and things like that. But yeah, I take a draw at City. I'm sorry, I can't read your name. Is it Dara James? Let me know where you're from as well in the comments to see who's the furthest away. We've got somebody watching in Auckland at the moment. Is there anybody further away than Auckland? You can't get much further away, but have we got any exotic places? Right then. I don't know why fans overlook the FA Cup, considering it's one of the big 3 trophies to win. I don't know whether the fans overlook it so much, but certainly the clubs tend to, or the managers tend to, because obviously the prize money in the Premiership. How would you call it, the Premiership? In the Premier League, the prize money in the Premier League is so high, and the prize for getting promoted from the Championship to the Premier League is so high that that's the priority for most teams, is the league, to either stay in the Premier League or to get into the Premier League. So that's completely understandable. However, for teams like us, for Leicester the other night against Newport County, I thought it was a complete embarrassment. They should have gone out and tried and win the game. They're in, as I think Gary Lineker or Alan Shearer or Ian Wright, whoever's pundit on that day, said about how embarrassing it is for a team who was completely safe in the league to be resting players to try and finish 7th. What's the point? Go and win a trophy, have a day at Wembley, you'll be remembered for years and years and years to come as the FA Cup winners of 2019, whereas you're not going to be remembered, well done, you finished 7th and got to play against Red Imps away in June in a qualifier for the Europa League. That's not an achievement for me. But yeah. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. Somebody living in Dudley. Lovely. Huss. Dara is from Dublin. I could have guessed. I was going to guess Ireland with the name like Dara. You got Shiv with Marines, palm trees and all. Stolen from somewhere, no doubt. Shiv. Dudley exotic. Yeah, of course it is, mate. Of course it is. Do you think the Villa players are giving stick to Tammy with being linked to us? Well, there was all sorts of stories about how they were putting on Instagram or some sort of social media about how they were going to miss him and he was going to miss them or whatever. No, I don't know. But I would want Shrewsbury. This is Josh Downs now talking about whether he'd want Shrewsbury or Stoke in the FA Cup. He says we'd want Shrewsbury, 1, because it's easier, 2, because Wolves fans can give Edwards and Ricketts a proper thank you. I think we gave Dave Edwards a bit of a send-off, didn't we, at Reading away? Did he come off the bench? I think he came off the bench, didn't he? And Bodvarsson went off, I think. I'm fairly sure. Did we? We didn't give him a. I can't remember. I really can't remember. But I'm sure that there was some sort of ovation for him. I know that Dave Edwards came and spoke on the pitch at one of the games after Christmas last year. Was it after? I can't even remember. I remember him being on the pitch. This is an awful conversation. He was on the pitch and he was clapped by everybody. It was lovely. I think he gets a lot of stick, Dave Edwards, but he was a good servant to the club, and at that time he was one of the best players, and that just shows you the sort of level of players that we had, unfortunately. And he's coming towards the end of his career now, and he's gone back to Shrewsbury, his hometown club. I imagine that he's taken a massive wage cut for that. And yeah, Josh Downs remembers what happened to Dave Edwards. He hardly got one. I remember him trying to do a lap at the end, but everybody had left. Yeah. When was the Reading game? Because it was rearranged, wasn't it, because of the snow? Yeah, so it was supposed to be Saturday, the 3rd of March, but it wasn't played then. Was it in between the... No. Would it have been after the Villa game? Yeah, I imagine it was in between the Villa game and the Burton game, I think, just from memory. Does winning the FA Cup mean that you get a Europa League spot or not? Yes, it does mean you get a Europa League spot. And I think, I could be wrong in this, but I think it's directly into the group stage rather than having to go through the qualifiers. I believe. I could be wrong in that, but that's what when Bodvarsson went off, everybody did the Icelandic clap. I do remember that, yeah. Well remembered, Josh. Shiv says that Grealish said Tammy's staying on Twitter. You would have thought Grealish understood how a loan move works. I don't think that Jack Grealish understands a lot of anything, to be honest. Don't forget to drop a like, guys, on the stream. Let's get that number ticking. 33 of you in here now. Drop any questions or queries or comments in the chat there, and we'll see if we can have a bit of a discussion on them. Just as there's a few more people in here than there were earlier on, I had a couple of pieces of artwork given to me by children in school, all to do with the Wolves, so I thought I'd stick them up here. They're really cool things, but if you've got any artistic traits in you and you want to have your work displayed, work displayed here, then please contact me somehow on Twitter at, this is terrible, I think it's the Old Gold something. Have a look. The Old Gold 1877. I really should learn my own social media handles. The Old Gold 1877. Yeah, so if you are artistic in any sort of way, or musically, if you've got any little bits of tracks that you want to send in that I can feature on the channel somehow. Shiv, I know I've seen that you do some sort of drumming thing, I think. If you want to have anything featured on the channel, that would be more than welcome. Because, yeah, I like sharing other people's work. Not claiming it's my own, obviously. I couldn't do anything like that. That's fantastic. Right then, let's have a look. So the question today was about Man City, the Man City game in particular. But let's have a look back quickly to Monday night against Liverpool. I imagine that everybody here watched it. Wolves, of course, playing a very strong team against Liverpool. it's been quite a discussion here on in the chat about the teams and about the importance of the FA Cup. For me, growing up, and I know that people who are older than me will be even more so, but the FA Cup final day was a special day. But since it moved to Cardiff and then back to Wembley, and the semi-finals being at Wembley as well, the whole importance of the thing has been watered down considerably. And unfortunately, it's not as big a deal as it was back 15, 20 years ago. There's various things that could be done to improve it, and I think the best idea that I've heard, I think that it should happen, is that the 4th Champions League spot should be given to the FA Cup because that would automatically just increase the competition there straight away. I think also what would make football, English football, really interesting is if you only gave the 2 top spots in the league to the Champions League, and then third and fourth spots to the League Cup winners and the FA Cup winners, because the League Cup is even more disrespected than the FA Cup because of it happening early on in the season. I think people sort of see it as a pre-season friendly still, and just gently roll into the season and giving new signings extra minutes and things like that. But I'd love to see raise the profile. Obviously, Wolves have got a good history in the competition. I don't know if Vernon Pringle there is putting up his predictions for. Oh no, he's not. I thought it might be. So Man City are 4-0 up after 37 minutes against Burton, which is quite spectacular, really. I think they beat Rotherham 7-0 last week. This is going to be double figures, perhaps. If City are ruthless, and I don't know if any of you have seen the Man City documentary, but Pep is completely ruthless in games like this, and you'd expect it to be a massive score, particularly over 2 legs. Mate, the League Cup is terrible. Just cancel it. I don't think you should cancel it. I think it's a good competition, a good mid-season competition. I think some of the top teams take it seriously when you get down to the latter stages, the quarter-final and the semi-final, etc. The Wolf 1818 was a very funny comment there, harking back to Pep Guardiola's comments last October. How can Man City be 4-0 up? I thought that ball was impossible to score with. Well, they managed to win the League Cup with it last year, and then they're doing quite well again. They'll be in the final again. But yeah, it's a good competition, I think, the League Cup. But I don't know whether the timing of it is right in the way that it's spaced out, because think about the semi-finals, and now you've just come off the back of all those fixtures in Christmas time. You've had the FA Cup 3rd round, then you've got another fixture on top of that. Then you've got a big break in between the 2 legs of the semi-final. It's a very, very weird competition, I think. But it's got better because they used to. I don't know if any of you remember, but the first round of it used to be 2 legs for some reason. You used to play. I remember always playing. I want to say Barnet, I think it was, years and years ago. Bully's last hat trick I saw about 99, I want to say, 2000. So there was a 2-legged affair, which is just bizarre. Not fair to award the FA Cup winners a Champions League spot for playing a few games when the Premier League teams have to work so hard over 38 games to try and achieve Champions League. That's a very true point, Huss. Very true point. If you go 4th for the FA Cup, mid-table and Championship teams wouldn't have a chance. So there's a not contradicting, but sort of different views on it. I think that you're right. The top teams you wouldn't see so many shocks. And obviously you would see the top teams taking it completely serious. Maybe not the very top teams. If you're top of the league come January, you're going to back yourselves to finish in the top 4 anyway. Sorry, not top 4, top 3. So then he's going to be affecting the teams like Wolves and like Leicester, who are between fifth or fourth and seventh or eighth. I think, but this is a very real chance of finishing in the top, in the Champions League place. Liverpool fans will be rooting for Wolves on Monday. They absolutely will. Couldn't agree with you more. What ideal players would you bring in this window? I think we need a striker, not to replace Jimenez. I think we've established, everybody is in agreement that Jimenez is a fantastic player and probably one of our best players at the moment. He's particularly form-wise, I'd say he's in probably the best form of the season. He scored against Liverpool, scored against Spurs, scored against Bournemouth, scored against Chelsea. So he's in a pretty good vein of form at the moment, and hopefully he can continue that, because we saw Bonatini really struggle last year, but it doesn't seem that Jimenez is going the same way. On the topic of Bonatini, he's surely going. Surely he's going. Not even in the squad for the Liverpool game. I think quite a few people predicted him just make a start in the game, but nowhere near the first team at the moment. I think, I can't remember if it was Tim Spears or somebody on the Fancast saying that Wolves will get £5 million for him. I'd be shocked at that. He's shown absolutely nothing for the last year. I think if you take that Sheffield Wednesday FA Cup game out from late August, what has he done? He kind of won a penalty. Did he win the penalty? Was he set up the penalty against Spurs? I think he won the penalty. I could be wrong there. So we need a striker because Bonatini's gone, and the only other option. I know that we've. I think Nuno said the other day about how we've got all these various players that can play in that position, but you just want something. We've got, Jota could play there, Cavaleiro could play there, Costa could play there, and Jimenez could play there, and we've got other players as well who could play there. But we need to have competition for Jimenez in that position, and to take the pressure off him as well. I think. Again, to quote Tim Spears, he was saying that Bodvarsson was absolutely flogged that couple of seasons ago, and we don't want that to happen to Jimenez. I don't think it will. I think Jimenez is a much fitter player, much better athlete than that. Yeah, just seeing Tim B there. Bonatini set up Traore in the West Ham game. That was in the peak of his career, Bonatini. Those 3 days. Scored against Sheffield Wednesday on the Tuesday night, and then down in London in the Olympic Stadium, had an assist for Traore. That's peak of his Wolves career, I think. Apart from was it 5 or 6 games in a row that he scored? Apart from that. Let's just go back a little bit. Huss has said, I really want Spurs to win the league rather than City or Liverpool. I actually predicted Spurs to win the league earlier on this season. Everybody laughed because, they haven't made any signings. But if they could just be a little bit more consistent, then they would be in with a chance of winning the league. But they shouldn't be losing to us at home. Well, it's not really at home. I think there's a bit of a debate as well about their ground and whether it's fair that they should be allowed to go into their new ground mid-season, because it's not fair competition. So for teams like us who've played at Wembley, it's not the same conditions as whoever Spurs are going to play in their first game there, or whoever Spurs are going to play later on in the season. But I mean, to be honest, we won there, so it doesn't really matter. We might have lost the new ground, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with that and when they do that. But I was a bit annoyed that we weren't getting to go there. I think there was a point where we could have been the first game in their new ground, but they're there for a while. Miles Hinton, can I just say, sweet channel. Been watching for a couple of seasons now. I love it. Keep it up. Miles, thank you. Absolute pleasure, mate. Let's have a look. Tim B says, need a left-footed striker, left-footed winger, and a right winger. We definitely need a a left-footed set-piece taker. That's something that we've been missing all season. Something that I remember saying back in August or back in July when we signed Johnny, saying he's grown on me. John, I think he's a fantastic left back and right back. We saw the other day he's able to get forward and cause problems down that side as well. And there we go. We've got the cover for Doherty. Vinagre, I didn't touch on him the other day. I'm really annoyed at myself for not doing that. But Vinagre played really, really well. Just a few little decisions in the final third that went against him, and he didn't really quite make the right choices there. But yeah, Vinagre's fine at left back. So we've got 2 players who can play left back and 2 players who can play right back. But we haven't got anybody in a ball like Barry Douglas could last year, and that's something that we just need to work on a little bit there, because the whip that he used to get on the ball and the pace that he used to put the ball in at, it was spectacular. And we just need to grab onto that and get somebody who can do that, because we've got Bolly, Bennett, who could header the ball, just big lumps in the box. We've seen that with the long throws when they do find Bolly and Bolly can flick it on. Something does happen quite often, so we need to get better balls into the box still. But I think we're getting better. Slowly but surely we're getting better. The new stadium looks amazing, says Shiv. It's sort of, I don't want to reopen it again, but the stadium talk with Wolves is will be up for debate soon as well, mate. I think at the end of the season there'll be things going on. John Pinson says rather City win the league. No respect for Spurs. Sorry, no respect for Spurs after playing us. I think Spurs were tired. I know it's not an excuse for professional athletes and particularly elite level athletes at the top of the division, but they were absolutely exhausted. If you watch that game back, it just showed how fit we are as well. We're a really, really fit team. We were just able to carry on playing the same way through the whole game, if not step up a gear as the game got later and later and later. We were just stepping up stepping up every single time and putting more pressure on them. A couple more questions have come in here. The Wolf 1818 has said we need somebody else to take the corners on the right hand side. Costa, anyone? I much prefer in-swinging corners every single time. And of course, on that side now we've got Moutinho who takes them both sides, and obviously from the right hand side they're taken by right foot, and so they're swinging outwards towards sort of from the goal line to the penalty spot like that, rather than the other way around. If you think about quite a few goals last season, the Fulham goal that Sace scored, Bennett's goal at Bristol City, where the ball is whipped in towards the goal and it just needs a little touch. That's what we need, an in-swinging left-footed player. Jurgen Klopp is genuinely not very nice. I don't get why he has a reputation of being nice and humble. Yes, I completely agree. Having watched him now twice on the touchline, because of where I sit, I get a pretty good view of the dugouts, and you could argue that it's enthusiasm and passion with him, but it seems to me like he's constantly berating these players. And they're some very, very young players there. They're 18, 16 the other day, and they're having Jurgen Klopp constantly going on and on and on. But yeah, the excuses that he was making the other day were absolutely pathetic. If he'd have just held his hands up and said, look, obviously we are prioritising the Premier League. We haven't won it for nearly 30 years. That's our main priority this year. I don't think anybody would have gone, what a massive surprise. But when he's blaming the wind for the players not being able to control the ball, that's a complete embarrassment. Sorry for these noises. I'm just tightening everything up. Honestly, this thing. Sorry. Jeez. I'd have loved to sign Pepe. What would your thoughts have been if he signed? I don't know. Again, I don't think we need to sign him, because he's another centre back. Our 3 centre backs at the moment are pretty good, I think. He's too old, John. Pepe, but it'd have been another good option. He's gone now, and he's gone to Porto, hasn't he? So it doesn't really matter. But it would have been interesting to see how he would have fit into the squad. I'm just going to go back. There's quite a few comments who's just come in now while I've just been messing about. It's a shame Spurs' new stadium wasn't ready. Had to set up for winning at Wembley. Lol. It was a shame, wasn't it, to win at Wembley? There's footage of me as well. I'm going to try and make a little video about it because this thing is really funny. There's footage of me running down the steps at Wembley after Jimenez scored. And I don't know if anybody's seen on my Instagram, the last time that I was at Wembley was also the last time that Raul Jimenez was at Wembley, and I gave him his flowers for winning the Olympics. That's a true story. I'll make a video on it one day, perhaps, if anybody's interested. I'm sure it will get 3 or more views. Shiv says, would you want the redevelopment of Molineux to look more like the futuristic Spurs kind of bowl shape, or an Anfield, so modern on the inside but classic 4 clear stands on the outside? Great question, Shiv. Love it. I like the fact that we've got 4 separate stands, and they've got their own sort of personalities to stands. You know what you're going to get. If you go and sit in the South Bank, you know what you're going to get. If you sit in the Billy Quiet, you know what you're going to get. If you sit, that's what I like, and that's what I think other teams have lost when they've moved to new stadiums, or if they've redeveloped their stadiums and had just big bowls put in, which is what modern stadiums are. But we've got the potential to stay in an iconic setting and have up to 50,000 capacity, which is more than enough for what we want. And if we can keep the South Bank as the South Bank, the rowdy, cop-like stand, the North Bank, still loud, but slightly more upper class than the South Bank. And then you've got, your elderly people who sit upstairs in the Billy Wright and me. And then you've got the children's section downstairs. I think it's a really good way of doing the ground. And I think the Steve Bull is the sort of wannabe South Banks. I think hopefully nobody gets offended by that, but I think it's true. I do like the fact that they've started to sing now. It's taken them long enough. I mean, how long has that stand been there for? Klopp gave the benefit of Neves goal. Ridiculous and juvenile. I don't know whether he blamed the wind, but he certainly said that it was something they couldn't control possession because of the wind. They couldn't keep the ball on the floor because obviously it must have just kept blowing up in the air. But I was there at the match. I'm sure lots of you were as well. I don't remember there being any wind at all, let alone wind enough to blow the ball around. I don't know if anybody else remembers as well, but a game back in, I want to say 2004 or 5, something like that. It was so windy that one of the advertising boards blew from the South Bank end right up into the air, a good couple of feet into the air onto the pitch. And then as a result of that, the stewards had to walk around and push all the advertising boards down. Please let me know if I've dreamt that, but I'm fairly sure it's true. And hopefully there's one of you 32 out there who was also there who can remember that. Do you think the do you think the big parking lot, do you mean car park, opposite the massive Sainsbury's would be good for a stadium? A stadium for what? It's not big enough for a football ground, I don't think. I think you sort of underestimate how much space it takes to build a football stadium. It's enormous space, and that's why I think there have been rumours about the Asda being bought and trying to do a Spurs-like move with building the ground over there and taking up the North Bank and whatever, and then moving across. I don't know whether that's possible. I don't know whether the rumours are true that Wolves have bought the Asda, but there's certainly potential for that space there. But I think it's important that we stay in the town. I think it's important that we stay in that site, the Molineux. But yeah, this is another talk for another day. John Pinson was at Cape Verde for the Liverpool, Fulham, and Spurs games. That's nice. Unfortunately, I was sitting in the cold. Hope you're having a nice time there in Cape Verde. Son Lozano from PSV. Okay. Old Trafford is one of the few old school grounds that looks good from both outside and inside. Yes, it is. But I believe that they're quite limited in what they can actually expand now, because there's the railway line that goes. If you've ever been to Old Trafford, there's one side of it that's particularly much smaller than the other three sides. It's the side that's got the director's box and the dugouts are on, and the old tunnel. The new tunnel, of course, is in the corner. Yeah, they can't expand that as much as they would have liked because of the train tracks behind the ground. It can't be too close to it. So I'm sure they've got plans to expand it to like 90,000 plus, which of course United will sell out every week, and they'll be, good for them. But yeah, I think it's a good ground from outside and inside. It's just a shame that the atmosphere in there is absolutely terrible. Who do you think is our best midfield pairing? I'll come back to that in a minute, Brian, because that's a very difficult question. I have to think about that a lot. John Pinson, or did he have wind? I think very good. Very good. Steve Bull's the best stand, says the Wolf 1818. What's your thoughts on Dendoncker? Dendoncker seems very similar to Sace, says Oliver, just better on the ball. Dendoncker looks so odd when he runs, don't you think? He looks like he's got a pole put through him. He's so straight, and his neck is so straight, and he's so still. But no, I was really impressed with Dendoncker the other day. In fact, in all the games that he's played, the Spurs game, I think he did really well. He had that big smash on the knee, didn't he, early on in the game. The 10 minutes against Chelsea, he did okay. Liverpool game, I think he was really, really good. And I think that gives Nuno a little bit of a headache, because now he's got such a varied selection that he can choose from in midfield. And I think it's been something like 8 games now that we haven't had the same consecutive games with the same 2 players in midfield, which is a little bit of a concern considering how many games we went unchanged for at the beginning of the season. Not that that matters, because we're still picking up points and stuff now. But I don't know. Who's our best midfield pairing? Moutinho for me is potentially the player of the year. I think he's been absolutely superb this season. He's just so good at keeping the ball, ticking the ball over. I know that in recent games he's lost the ball a couple of times, but the fact that he can play in that slightly more advanced position as well gives him more strings to his bow. The fact that Neves is learning such a lot from him as well. Gibbs White is learning a lot from him. And hopefully, I mean, if you're going to come into a midfield that's got Neves and Moutinho in it, you've got to be very, very good. I like Sace because I think he gives us something different. He's a snappy, horrible, nasty midfielder, which is what you need sometimes. I was listening to the South Bank Resistance yesterday, and they were saying how funny it is that when he comes off the pitch and he's interviewed, in his post-match games, he's got such a soft, quiet voice, and he speaks really high and calm. I think it's very funny. So yeah, and then Dendoncker, as I just mentioned, controlled on the ball. Personally, I don't know if it's a controversial opinion or not, but he would have been my man of the match on Monday. I think he was really, really good. Really good. If you watched him as well for the first goal that Jimenez scored, he's desperate to get up there and score. So whether he's that sort of advanced attacking player as well, that would be really interesting to see as well. We've got somebody who can fill that role as well. Craig Dawes, thank goodness I wasn't dreaming. I remember that windy game. I can't remember which one, but definitely saw stewards pushing all the balls over. Yeah, I can't even remember what season it was in, but I remember. I want to say it's about. I think it was after the first Premier League season. I think I could be wrong. 27 shots. Neves is world class. Do you rate any other midfielders higher than him? I think I've answered that question, hopefully, just in the little spiel I just did about the other centre midfielders. But I'd say it's gone from being our weakest area 2 seasons ago when we had George Saville, Lee Evans, Dave Edwards, etc., to now the plethora of talent that we've got in that position. It's an embarrassment of riches. Will 4 stands still be iconic with the corners filled in? I think we could, if we did it in a way like, if you've been to Villa Park, they sort of have joined them all together, but they're still separate, if you know what I mean. There's little joins in the corners, and the stands are very close together. Personally, I think Villa's a very, very good ground. I think it's intimidating. It's big. You've got the big. I don't know what the stands are called. The whole end is iconic, and you've got is it the Trinity stand, the big one? I can't remember which ones are which now. The big one, which they don't always open anymore because they're so small. Fry now. Yeah. What do you think about Doherty going to Spurs? Maybe I haven't heard that before. Hopefully, it's not true. I think he's integral to how we play. Not only, of course, did we learn that last season when he missed that whole game, but also how well he's played this season and how sort of unexpected it was after the first couple of games. I think he really struggled against like Theo Walcott, against Everton, and then Leicester. Of course, it was an absolute terrible game for him. But then, ever since, I think it was the Man City game, the next game, he played against Benjamin Mendy and Leroy Sané came on, and players like that. And he was able to cope with that. And that gave him confidence then going forward. I'm just looking at the fixtures now. The West Ham game, I remember thinking, oh, he played quite well then. And then he's just grown into the season, hasn't he? Burnley, Man United, Southampton, Palace, of course, he scored. Watford, nobody had a good game on that day. Neither nor Brighton. Spurs and Arsenal, Huddersfield. You know, he's growing into the season. But Chelsea game and Newcastle game, those 2 games back to back, where he got the assist for Jota and then the goal at Newcastle. I think it's been the highlights of his season there. Hopefully, the South Bank expansion leads to filling in the gaps in the corners. I hate the gaps in the corners. Again, does anybody remember, long time ago, there used to be on the South Bank, in between the South Bank and the Billy Wright, there used to be a really, I used to really like it. It was a flower bed in the shape of a wolf, which of course they had to get rid of when they put the temporary stand there. But I used to love it. I used to love looking at it. And they used to manage to keep it going all through the year as well. It was fantastic. I'm surprised that Chelsea haven't moved or expanded. They've only got 45,000. They could easily fill the same as Man United. I don't know whether they could, because they're not like Man United have always been a massive team and have been worldwide brand for 20 years or so. Chelsea is still, they haven't got that historic following like United have got worldwide. But yeah, I see your point. They have tried to move a number of times. They've tried to move to Battersea Power Station, that sort of site, but it's a listed building, so they're unable to knock it down and stuff. So yeah, Shiv's just answered that question. They also had plans as well to expand Stamford Bridge in a similar way to that Spurs had done, which meant that they were going to be playing at Wembley for a couple of years again. But it's been put on hold because it was going to cost £1 billion or something like that, or 2 billion. It was going to cost an awful lot of money. And Abramovich has had all sorts of problems over the summer. And I think, well, the clubs are for sale now, isn't it, Chelsea? So he's not allowed in the country or something, or I'm not really sure of the ins and outs of it, so I won't go into it. But I think he was applying for something like Israeli citizenship or something like that. What's your thoughts on signing Johnny? Talks of him wanting to go back and continue his career in Atletico. If so, do you think Vinagre is good enough to replace him? Well, obviously, Johnny signed for Atletico Madrid in the summer, and it was immediately loaned out to us. I think it's similar to that of Jota, in that you've been signed, or if you play for a massive club like Atletico Madrid, obviously at some point you're going to want to play for them. I mean, they're a Champions League team, they're a top team, massive following in Spain, massive following worldwide. So obviously it would be their ambition, and it would be silly of Johnny to come out and say, having not played a game for them, but still be paid, by them and be, he's a Atletico player. It would be silly of him to come out and say, I don't want to play for Atletico Madrid, I only want to play for Wolves. But it would be interesting if we were to put in a bid for him in the summer, if he would come. That would be interesting. But I do think Vinagre's getting better. But that being said, I think that he will be a more advanced player in the future. I think he's so attacking minded. He's okay at defending. He's not bad. He's definitely a wing back rather than a left back. But I think if he can get in the gym, bulk up a little bit, get a bit stronger, decision making needs to be a little bit better. But I've got no doubt that he could certainly be a top player, and I'd be playing him left wing and up front in those positions. Mancini seems to have a better effect off the bench than the other midfielders. That's true. When Neves came on against Palace, I don't think the game changed that much. Whereas when Mancini came off the bench against Spurs, it completely changed the game. I hope Man City do not play like this on Monday. De Bruyne, Sane are awesome. Yes. Well, it's almost similar to. Not quite against the calibre of opposition, but as we played Spurs, they'd just beaten Everton and Bournemouth. We're scoring 11 goals against them. Then they played us. I know that Man City are only playing against Rotherham and Burton, but you never know. You never know. Which trip would you like to make next season? Ellen Road, Carrow Road, Bramall Lane, Pride Park, Villa Park, Hawthorns, or Riverside? Let's have a think. I've been to Ellen Road once. I've been to Carrow Road, not for a game, but I've been and sat in the dugout once. Never been to Bramall Lane. Pride Park I've been to a few times. Villa Park a few times. Hawthorns once. Riverside once. So on that basis, Carrow Road and Bramall Lane, because I've never been to them. But personally, I would Leeds to be promoted, because they're a massive club, they're a proper team, they're a proper Premier League team, they're a proper First Division team, a proper big team in Europe. I want them to get promoted, and I really hope they don't bottle it. I've got friends who are Leeds fans, and for their sake, how long has it been now? 15 years since they were last in the Premier League. They got relegated with us in 2004 on the same number of points. And they've been to hell and back. They deserve Premier League football again. I know that you're all supposed to hate Leeds, but actually, I don't. Dave has a party. Nice to see you here, mate. SOTV. Right back at you. Derek says, impressed with Dendoncker. He gets forward well. He was there for the pass from Jimenez on Monday, but he seems a bit slow in getting back to defend. Yeah, I think he's probably a little bit like Adama Traore in that he's still adapting to the way that we play, and still adapting to the system and everything like that, and his job. So yeah, I think he'll get better. It's paper talk. I assume is that to do with Doherty as a parties, then just chipped in with Spurs. Have 3 great right backs, so I think that's unlikely. What position do we need to invest in this month? I think we should spend big on a striker. Yeah, I've already touched on that earlier on. Do you think Jota is going to start firing the goals now? I think he is. I think that he looked really sharp, I think, against Liverpool the first half. He looked as if he sort of hadn't missed a beat since the was it Bournemouth game when he went down? I think it was, wasn't it? So he missed nearly a month of football, but he looked confident, he looked positive in his intent, and yeah, hopefully he'll be back to the sort of form he was in just before he picked up his injury. Do you think that basketball will ever be as popular as football in Europe? Basketball is already more popular than football in Eastern Europe and Nordic countries. What an interesting conversation piece? I have no idea. I know that there's too many points in basketball, and I don't like it, because that's when you score a hoop. It's not a big deal, is it? Because there's going to be another one that happens in about 3 seconds. So that's why I don't like it, and that's why I don't think it's going to be. I don't know, because you've got to really earn a goal in football, haven't you? I have a bet with a West Ham fan in Cape Verde. He thinks that they will finish above us this season. Don't think that's going to happen, mate. No chance at all. Are the fireworks for the Chinese viewers on TV? Interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. But if you remember, it was about this time last year that the fireworks all sort of started. I thought it was because of Chinese New Year. But then when it carried on until May, and then in August, I sort of accepted that it wasn't. Yeah, possibly. I think it's just for the general entertainment value pre-match. And I'm a little bit worried that people are starting to go to the match just to see the fireworks and the light show and stuff. Although I don't think that's happened just yet. I wonder when we will know if Jimenez is staying at Wolves or he'll go back to Benfica. We did sign Jota, didn't we, at this point last year? But I'd be surprised if that was to happen with Jimenez or with Johnny, because of the prices with them and the touch and go with FFP. I think we're pretty close to that at the moment. If we were going to have, I think we've probably got space for one more big signing. But I think we must be okay with FFP, because I think it was 2017 that we started a new 3-year cycle. So we're in the second year of that now. And because when you get promoted to the Premier League, you're allowed to make more of a loss. But then, of course, you have more TV money, you have the prize money that's more. So I think we're probably able to make a couple of big signings, I think, in January, but probably more likely in the summer. But we've got to pay for Dendoncker in the summer as well, haven't we? So there's that. A few interesting things there. Don't think we're signing Johnny. I think he's a long-term replacement for Juan Fran. Craig Dawes says, to be fair, I remember the original ground and watching Andy Gray signing on the pitch. So yes, I remember the flower bed. Very good. Doherty becoming a Mendes client sums at Wolves, the combining of old and the new Wolves. Doherty didn't have an agent either. I didn't realise that. I don't know whether I think it's probably his dad or something represented him. That's quite an interesting way to go. But I think Dendonker's the same. Dendoncker doesn't have an agent. He's just represented by his family. Interesting way to go. Brian, should we just sign Jimenez? No one cares how much he costs now. Even if it was 70 million, every fan would be calling to sign him. I think we have got to wait a little bit as well. I think the board perhaps and Nuno might be a little bit wary, considering what happened to Bonatini last season. Although I'm not saying that I think this will happen to Jimenez. I think Jimenez will be able to continue the form that he's in and score a handful of goals, at least. A handful of goals. I think he'll get. What's he on now? I think he'll get to 15-ish. I did predict at the beginning of the season that Jota would be scoring about 15 goals. I think he will start chipping in a bit more as well. I think we'll score more goals second half of the season than we did in the first half. And if we can get Jota to around about 10 goals, Jimenez to 15 or so, then that's a very, very good return for first season. We've got to keep reminding ourselves that with the first season back in the Premier League, it feels like we're already an established Premier League team, but we're by no means that. Duncan runs like Kenny Hubert, like a giraffe. He's got the longest neck in football. Do you think we'll be stronger second half of the season like we are in the second half of games? That's a good question, John. Well, if last season is anything to go by, I think we peaked at sort of Christmas time, didn't we, last year? November and early December last year were our best months. And then we found it difficult in March and April. Sorry, not March. In March. April we were pretty much priority, won't we? But there was a really tough spell. So February and March, a couple of really tough spells, really tough games. So if you look at our fixtures in February and March this year, there should be quite a few winnable games in there. So we've got Everton away, Newcastle at home. That should be a guaranteed 3 points. Newcastle at home, but it probably won't be. Bournemouth away, Huddersfield away. That should be 9 points there. But we know what the season is like. Then you've got Cardiff. Then we've got Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Burnley away. That's where we found it difficult last year. If we can learn how to play against these teams who are down the bottom of the table, then we will start to we could start zooming up the table. That's the time where you really need to be hitting form and getting we could get 7th place with a decent run of wins there. Right then. Basketball will never touch football in the UK, but it's hugely popular in other parts of the continent. Too many handballs, says Shiv. Have we got a Norwegian Wolf watching us? Have we? The Wolf 1818, are you from Norway? Fantastic. We've got somebody from down in Auckland watching, or early on we did. Derek from Auckland. The Wolf 1818 from Norway. I think we had someone from Ireland watching earlier on. Fantastic. Love that. Love all the international viewers of the Old Gold and Black. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the channel, like the video, like the live stream. Let's get it going up the charts, etc. Miles says, I'd love to see Chicharito alongside Raul up front. It would be an interesting combination. Thoughts? If we could have Chicharito Hernandez from circa 2008, 2009, I'd like that. But yeah, he's an interesting player because, again, he would offer something different. And I think he probably would be able to fit into our team. He's quick and pacey and, a goal scorer. Will we sign Ronaldo this season? No, I think he'll probably have one more season at Juve. He wouldn't drop down to a team that's not in the Champions League. I think we need to get in the Champions League first before we get Ronaldo. Dendoncker attracting attention from Roma. I've heard that Dazzling Dave mentioned that the other day. I can't see that happening. Did you see how spotty he was as well, Dendoncker, in his post-match interview? Proper little boy, and apparently he's always down McDonald's. That's why he's all all the grease and stuff on his skin. Bonatini, loan or sell? He's going to be sold now, isn't he? He's had his time. 5-0 City. Poor Burton. But fair play to City. Haven't taken it. They could have rested a lot of players before their cup final next Monday, but they've gone for it, and yeah. But for Burton, it's amazing, isn't it? Burton in the semi-final of the League Cup. It's a fantastic achievement. Well done to them. Why don't we just extend the loan period for Jimenez? He's 27 and £3 million. £3 million a season for the loan is cheaper than 30 million, especially if he starts to get tired at 30, 31. That's funny. Do you think our 3 consecutive games with Leicester, West Ham and Everton are the crucial ones to decide who might finish 7th and 8th? I didn't realise that's the fixture list. Yeah, of course it is. Leicester. Oh, we've got the FA Cup in between, that's why. Leicester at home, West Ham at home, Everton away. If we've got any ambitions in finishing 7th, then that's gonna be the run of fixtures. If we could easily lose all. What I found really difficult this year in previewing games, and why I haven't done it a lot, in particular, and why I never predict anything, is because you could easily see all 3 results happening for every single game. Against Tottenham and against Liverpool in the last couple of weeks, I've said, well, yeah, we could easily get absolutely smashed, or we could nick a win, or it could just be a draw. It's very, very difficult to predict this at the moment. But yeah, you are right, Brian. There, that's the crucial run of fixtures. If we've got any ambitions there. Tim B, according to analytics, we are now making enough chances to be 4th. Now that we are starting to score, hold on to your hats. again, yeah, if you think back to all those games, Huddersfield, they've lost 8 games in a row. How did we lose? They've won 2 games all season. How did we lose that game? Ridiculous. Newcastle are a fairly decent club. You'd think their owner would actually invest through the revenue they bring. He's done the same trick that he always does. In about December, he says, "Oh, there's been a bid here. The club's up for sale," and it turns out that it's false, and they don't sign anybody in January, and they're doomed. I think they are a massive club, and I know that people don't like people saying, "Oh, that they're a massive club." They're an enormous club. One club city like that, with a 50,000 capacity stadium, the history that they've got, not necessarily in winning competitions, but in relative success. They played in the Champions League in the last 15 years. I think, did they get to the semi-final or the quarter-final or something like that with Bobby Robson? Shearer, legend in himself. You know, there's just bad decisions off the pitches have really cost them. But they're still a team, I think, to fear a little bit, just because of the sort of spirit of them. But I think they will struggle if they don't sign anybody, because I think Rafa will either leave or down tools after January, and I think they'll plummet down the table. But it's going to be interesting to see the relegation battle, because I think there's quite a lot of teams caught up in it, and there's teams like Cardiff, who nobody expected to do anything this season, have been quite a shock, really, to be where they are in the table so far. Do you think Fosun would be here long term or sell for profit when we get top 4? They are an investment company after all. That's a concern, but it's a long term concern. It's not something that's really bothering me at the moment, because I think they'll be here. I think they'll be here definitely till we win a trophy. I think once we start winning, like Abramovich now, his ambition at the beginning was to win the Champions League. They won the Premier League pretty easily. They won the FA Cups and League Cups pretty easily. But it took them a long time, nearly 10 years, to win the Champions League. And when they did, I mean, how long's he lasted since then? Another 6 years or so, and he started to sell up. So, yeah, it's... I can't remember what the question was now. Oh, Fosun. They will sell up eventually, but it will be quite a long time in the future, I'd imagine. We talked about Doherty earlier on. Sorry, Chaotic Rager. You'd have to check back earlier on in the stream for that. And also we'll give you a few more views. Thank you. I'll only count the League Cup as a real trophy if Wolves won it. Wolves? Well, of course it's a real trophy. Of course it is. What do you think of our best for the number 10 spot? I want to see Morgan Gibbs-White to start more in that position. I like Moutinho in that position as well. I know that Gibbs-White is good, and the potential he's got is fantastic. I think from what I've heard or what I've seen on Instagram from Talking Wolves earlier on is that Gareth Southgate was at the Wolves match on Monday to look specifically at Connor Cody for his next England squad. But I think Gibbs-White has got a very good chance of getting loads of England caps if he can just time it right. If he can get in the Wolves squad, I mean, what a time to get in it as well. If you can get in ahead or alongside of Moutinho and Neves, that's a fantastic achievement for him. Right, last couple of nights I'm going to have to go. I just realised the time. What was more of a surprise to you, Blackburn winning the Premier League or Leicester? I think it has to be Leicester. I know that both of them spent a lot of money, which is never really covered. But Blackburn had built on success, because I think they finished second the year before, something like that. It wasn't just a flash in the pan. They built a team with the intention of winning the Premier League, whereas that was not the case with Leicester. Leicester was they were just about stayed up the season before, and they were aiming to stay up again, and then just sort of got carried away and kept on winning. So Leicester, it's the biggest shock in world sport, in the history of world sport, I think. Definitely one of the best comebacks. Is this 7-0 Man City now? Dear me. I'll go and watch the second half of that Where do you think we'll finish at the end of the season? I'll be happy with 7th or 8th. I predicted 8th at the beginning of the season. I'm going to stick with 8th. That would be a fantastic season for us as well. People have been saying, "Oh, nobody would have predicted this." Well, actually, old Tommy Rouse did. I'm 46, says Miles, and I've waited all my life for a team like this. Exciting, attacking, modern. Last season was like a dream. If we keep improving 3 or 4 years, maybe Europe. I think we can look even closer than that. I think that if we don't get it this year by our league position, I mean, I could be wrong here, but we could theoretically finish 8th and qualify for Europe if, for example, the FA Cup final is between 2 teams from the top 4. I think it could go down that low to 7th and 8th. It's such an exciting time. But anyway, going to have one last minute. You can there's 24 of you in here now. If you'd all wouldn't mind dropping a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and whack in your score predictions, please, for the game against Manchester City on Monday night. What do you see us doing? Do you see us getting anything at all? Pop them in the comments now. And yes, I am half Welsh, Boxing News Central. Yeah, that's the bit of the accent. A lot of people have commented saying that, I can actually understand the Wolves fan talking for once, which is, I think it's absolutely disgusting. Anyway, come on. Predictions for the match Monday night, please. Has anybody noticed on Sky, they keep it keeps being advertised as Friday night football on Monday night? I've seen that a couple of times now. NJ Gaming says 2-1 to the Wolves. Bold. 2-2 says Huss. Great Q&A, says Miles Hinton. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Miles, spread the word to all your Wolves mates. Share it on Facebook, etc. Cheers. Don't forget as well about the artwork. If you want to send any artwork in, send it to my email address on the channel. It'd be great. Thank you. City's away end is second worst to ours in terms of height, is it? 3-1, says the Wolf. 18-18, Neves, Jota and Jimenez, and some Man City player or other. Love the positivity there, the Wolf. Let's get the wind blowing. Wind blowing, ball to round, and the grass to dry. What else has he said? 4-0 City. Neves gets a red card. Aguero gets a hat-trick. Okay. Come on, send on a positive note. Last prediction is going to be the prediction that I go with. Make sure it's a mitre ball. Exactly. Neves said something to me in his interview about mitre ball. You can only score with mitre balls. Come on, Neves. You're better than that. You're better than that. "4-1. Cody's just scored as well. Amazing. 2-2. Vincent, right, I'm going to call it a day there. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a very long one, hour and a quarter nearly. I've been on here, but hopefully be back next Wednesday as well. Jason Turley hanging in a 3-3 there. Don't forget to look out for the video after the Man City game on Monday night. Rui Patricio hat-trick. Superb. Monday night, there'll be a video after the Man City game. Sorry about that. I know I've seen other YouTube channels doing this watch-along thing. Let me know if you want me to do that. I'm not particularly keen on doing it, but I will do it if there is the need for it. But I won't do that, I don't think. But anyway, yeah, look out for a video then. Look out for me next Wednesday as well with another live stream. I'll see you next time. Thank you, boys and girls. Cheerio.